Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the really highly respected Judiciary Committee. I wish I had come in one bill later than I did. I don't know how you all do this work every day, but thank you for it. I am here to ask for your thoughtful consideration of House Bill 613. It protects the privacy of sexual assault victims by redacting their names from easy access on public-facing kiosks. And indeed, they are easy to find. Last year, this body, thanks to our fabulous Delegate Phillips, worked on a bill very similar to what I'm presenting to you now to protect the identity of minors. So thank you so much for that important legislation. This bill actually just adds sexual assault victims to that piece of legislation with a few other changes that we worked out with Chief Judge Morrissey. You all know that sexual assault has a stigma associated with it that makes it very difficult sometimes to actually go and report and prosecute these cases. And you're actually going to hear that there have been some victims who have been discouraged to prosecute based on their fear of having their privacy revealed and their name revealed. So currently the name of any adult victim is easily accessible. When this was first brought to my attention, I spoke to a lot of folks on this committee and outside this committee, and we all sort of went, really? We thought that that was private. Indeed, after spending an afternoon going down a very dark and deep rabbit hole at the court building, we found that indeed it's not. The sexual assault victims' names and sometimes other identifying factors are easily accessible from all of your jurisdictions. So this legislation doesn't restrict any party to the case from having the information. It truly just makes it more comfortable, more private, and have more respect for those who are going through this when they don't have to worry constantly that anyone can find out their name. So I ask you for your support of House Bill 613 to support victims and encourage reporting of sexually assaulted behaviors. We do have some amendments and an interlineated version in front of you right now, or at least we sent it to the committee because we didn't get our final amendment back before this hearing. The amendment actually changes it back to be closer to your bill last year with a few changes that we made to make it different, but we put it back in that form because it was great work. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions, but first I'd like to turn it over to Mary. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm a 17-year-old advocate for sexual assault prevention and survivor protections. I brought this bill. Okay. Sorry. Good afternoon. I'm a 17-year-old advocate for sexual assault prevention and survivor protections. I brought this bill to Delegate Guyton and have worked very hard on this bill. Protection of sexual assault survivors is an issue that's very close to my heart. When I was 14, I was sexually assaulted by a boy who I knew was involved in serious criminal activity. My parents immediately began an investigation to build a case against the perpetrator, but I was scared out of my mind, so I made them drop the case. I knew if we pursued legal action, my name would be out there, and if not him, then one of his associates would come after me. I am so grateful that this committee helped to pass SB 111 last year to protect minor victims' privacy. However, this law only applies to those under 18. If I were just 4 years older when I'd been sexually assaulted, I would be denied of these privacy protections, and my identity could have easily been discovered because of these easily accessible courthouse kiosks. Sexual assault cases differ from many other criminal cases in that they are extremely sensitive at any age. Adult survivors may request anonymity, but it is a cumbersome process for most people without a law degree would have no idea how. Furthermore, in cases of sex crimes, the victim's name is actually required under Criminal Law Statute 3317. Due to the sensitivity and frequent retaliation associated with sexual assault cases, regardless of the victim's age, adult survivors should be granted these same protections. This is my first time publicly sharing my story. It's terrible and it's tragic, but I want to use my experience to help other survivors like me. The government has a duty to ensure the safety of sexual assault survivors, and a part of that is protecting the identities to support those who come forward and prosecute their offenders. It should be standard policy, not discretionary, that court filings redact identifying information of sexual assault survivors, both children and adults. Thank you for your time.
Scott Schellenberger, State's Attorney for Baltimore County, here in favor of House Bill 613. If that doesn't convince you, then certainly I don't know that I will. Thank you so much for coming. Several years ago, we enacted this statute in order to protect minor victims. And when we said it, it was like, oh, yeah, of course we should be able to redact minor victims from any public records. And then all of a sudden, last year we thought, oh, well, what about sexual assault victims? And we realized that there was really no specific statute that dealt with it. So the concept here is to take the statute that was passed before that deals with minors and allow the sexual assault victim to ask the state's attorney to make a motion that their name and identifying information be kept out. Remember, the courts can decide not to do this. Now, they would have to decide by clear and convincing evidence that there's good cause that the person should be disclosed. But it does require that on written request of the victim of a sexual assault, that the court take it out. And remember, this does not affect a defendant's rights. The defendant's lawyer and the defendant will still know who the victim is, and therefore we think this is a very good bill and ask for a favorable report. Is that my delight?
No, you have 30 more seconds if you want.
That's all right. We have good people coming along. We'll defer to them.
All right, Ms. Setzer, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Mary Setzer, and I'm the head of the Special Victims Unit at the Maryland Office of the State Prosecutor, asking for a favorable report on House Bill 613. The Office of the State Prosecutor handles political corruption, police misconduct, and election law cases throughout the state of Maryland. Our office, after noticing a significant influx in cases involving sexual impropriety alleged against people in positions of trust, started this unit to ensure that justice is served to those who victimize individuals using their public position of power. I personally have served as a prosecutor at the local, state, and federal levels, leading prosecutions of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault. One of the challenges in public corruption cases where there are victims, especially victims of sexual assault, is the attention these cases receive from the public, a force that often dissuades victims from coming forward. Our specific office already anonymizes victims' identities during the charging process, but we currently must always advise victims of the possibility of their identity becoming public in filings after the initial charge is prepared and filed by our office. This legislation would help preserve a sexual assault victim's anonymity in all paper filings that accompany the case. The victims who make these allegations understand that they may still have to appear in court, but it is extremely important that at the charging stage and in filings, their names are not known. This legislation helps ensure that this is a standard practice throughout the state and will be a meaningful way to ensure that victims of these sensitive crimes are not dissuaded from reporting them due to their fear of their identities becoming public. It also ensures that these victims are not further victimized and subjected to additional suffering beyond the assault they've already endured by their identities becoming public after prosecutors have made the decision to initiate charges. We would like to thank Delegate Guyton for her leadership on this issue, and we encourage a favorable report.
Ms. Jordan, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lisa Jordan with the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault. We're here in strong support of House Bill 613 with the sponsor amendments. Thank you so much for your courage bringing this bill forward. I did want to just focus on a couple of details in the amendments and echo what the witnesses before me have said. There's no motion actually needed to protect a current case. However, this bill very wisely allows victims in past cases to file a motion. So it's not requiring the court to go back to every single case that's ever been filed, but it says in those old cases, if you come forward and ask for redaction, then that will be protected. Anything going forward that is a sex crime will be protected. Some key parts of the amendments that you have in front of you include that the victim or the victim's representative will have access to the file, and we want to make sure that that's true because remember, victims are not parties to the case, so we need to make sure that they have access. And then finally, there's a technical correction. The bill that Delegate Phillips sponsored and championed last year about minors wisely said we have to tell the court that someone's a minor. because you can tell if something is a sex crime just by the nature of the charge, but you need to tell the court if a witness is a minor, if someone is a minor, otherwise they might not know. So we encourage the committee to adopt those amendments and ask for a favorable report on House Bill 613.
Ms. Feinstein, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Clippinger. Debbie Feinstein. I'm with the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office, Chief of the Special Victims Division. I'm testifying on behalf of my office and the Maryland State's Attorneys Association, as Joyce King and I co-chair a Special Victims Subcommittee. My office currently anonymizes sexual assault victims' names in our indictments and our charging and any public-facing document. However, what we can't control and what we teach is, in terms of law enforcement getting a statement of charges, the name may end up there, or they may be asked to add it by the commissioner if the commissioner has concerns. We've had both of those things happen. This would prevent that name from getting out. We're a member of the public to seek those documents. Currently, it also doesn't prohibit opposing counsel from including the victim's name in their filings, which often comes up in sexual assault cases because we have all sorts of filings related to other acts, other sexual assaults, other prior bad acts. And those filings are routine in sexual assault cases. So really what this does is protect the victim of the sexual assault across the board in any public-facing filing, regardless of who files it. And I would urge support and echo what my colleagues have said already in support.
Questions for the panel? All right, seeing none, thank you all very much for your testimony. And we'll go on. We'll hear from, there are more people, I think, virtually. Lauren Pruitt, Sarah David. Yes, the women's, right. Catherine O'Malley. It's Kurt Wolfgang. Here, sir. Okay, come on up, Kurt. Cecilia Plant? No? Oh, I'm sorry. I went to the part, to that part. Okay, that's fine. We'll hear from Mr. Wolfgang here in the room first, and then we'll go to our two virtual people. Mr. Wolfgang, for 2 minutes, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Kurt Wolfgang. I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center and have appeared before you on many occasions. I thank Delegate Guyton for this bill. It is a very important subject. She actually called and asked for my help, and I'm afraid I wasn't much help in the process of coming up with this. My apologies. I see what we were overlooking when I spoke to her. The important reasons for this have somewhat been mentioned, but protection from re-traumatization of the individual involved. More importantly, I think, is the encouragement of people to seek charges in sexual assault cases. It's sometimes reported that as many as 60% of sexual assaults go unreported. And obviously, this is another one of the reasons that people don't want to report to seek charges in sexual assault cases. Forgive me, I guess I'm speaking twice of sexual assaults. I wanted to emphasize to the committee that the issue comes up. There are some First Amendment concerns whenever something like this happens. It has been litigated on many occasions in many different types of cases that there is no First Amendment bar to this. It's considered a compelling state interest to protect the identity of sexual assault victims for the reasons stated above, and primarily to encourage them to participate in the criminal justice system. So with that, I ask that you report favorably on this bill, and we appreciate the opportunity to be heard before you.
So Malley, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Clippinger and Vice Chair Bartlett, and thank you, Delegate Guyton, for bringing this bill forward. It's a very, very important bill. I am Katie O'Malley from the Women's Law Center of Maryland, and we strongly support and urge a favorable finding on the bill. You know, it extends privacy protections for minor victims of sexual assault to the alleged victims of any age, including the right to have their identifying information redacted from an existing filing. We support this bill in order to protect survivors from further re-victimization, just as your last witness had talked about. This also helps survivors protect their privacy, their dignity, and their security. So many times when survivors come forward, they are re-victimized in the press. Sometimes their abuser then takes their information and, as they call it, doxing, sends it out through the internet and then re-victimizes them so many different ways. So we definitely support this bill and thank Delegate Guyton and your young witness for coming forward today and sharing her traumatizing story. And I'm here to answer any questions. So thank you again for allowing me this important opportunity.
Lauren Pruitt, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Pruitt, and I'm the legal director at Free State Justice, a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving LGBTQ+ Marylanders. As was stated, more than 50% of victims of sexual assault did not report the crime to police. And this is confirmed by Bureau of Justice statistics. This alarming statistic underscores the urgent need for HB 613, which addresses the fear that many victims have of reporting the crime due to privacy concerns. This issue is of utmost importance to the LGBTQ+ community. As research indicates, the community is 4 times more likely to experience violent victimization, including sexual assault, than non-LGBTQ+ individuals. The rates of victimization are even higher when additional factors affecting that individual, such as race, immigration status, homelessness, and poverty, are taken into account. HB 613 is a crucial step towards addressing these disparities and providing much needed protection to the LGBTQ+ community. As an advocate, I've witnessed firsthand the challenges that experiencing sexual assault and reporting it imposes on the community. Fear of personal information such as sexual orientation, gender identity, and details of the assault being shared keeps many from reporting the assaults and seeking support. By protecting all victims of sexual assault, Maryland will ensure a safeguard for the LGBTQ+ community as well. By safeguarding folks' identities, we create a safer space that encourages individuals to report their victimization. This step not only demonstrates compassion and understanding, but also empowers more survivors to come forward and seek justice in the courtroom for the crimes inflicted upon them. In doing so, we foster a community where voices can be heard and healing can begin. I hope this results in significantly lower incidences of sexual assault, creating a safer environment in Maryland for everyone. I urge the committee to issue a favorable report for HB 613. Thank you.
Delegate Cardin with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all very much for coming and testifying, and I'll preface this with I'm a co-sponsor of the bill. I hope it passes. This is actually for Ms. O'Malley. Can you put on your judge hat for a minute? It's always good to see you. If you can put on your judge hat for a second. There's no issues with the right of confrontation or anything in the actual court experience that would be problematic with this legislation. Is that correct?
You're 100% correct. Just as Ms. Jordan had testified when she had her 2 minutes. This does not take away the right to confrontation, and all that information is given to the defense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no other questions, we thank you all very much, and that concludes the testimony for House Bill 613. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.